along with assault and battery, disturbing the peace. You're under arrest.
Sunday mornings at 10:30 on Channel 11. WTCN TV continuously strives to bring you the best possible television entertainment and information. WTCN TV is owned and operated by WTCN Television Incorporated, a service of Metro Media Television. WTCN TV operates by permission of the Federal Communications Commission on Channel 11. The transmitter is located at 960 West County Road F in Shoreview, Minnesota. Studios at 441 Boone Avenue North, Minneapolis. Now WTCN TV continues its broadcasting service.
WTCN Television continues its broadcast service with an inspirational message. Inspiration for Living, supplied by one of several religious denominations. The series represents the religious diversity of the community that supports the strong and healthy continuance of the ideals of American society. The following message is an example of the presentations provided as a public service by the television industry and WTCN Television to serve spiritual concerns. Now, Inspiration for Living.
All you works of the Lord, bless the Lord. O you fire and heat, bless the Lord. O you frost and cold, bless the Lord. O you light and darkness, bless the Lord. O all you things that spring up in the earth, bless the Lord. O all you birds of the air, bless the Lord. O you sons of men, bless the Lord. Bless the Lord.
Welcome to What's New. My name is Nancy Nelson. We've been here a couple of mornings now at 5 o'clock, and if you're up this early, we're new to you. Normally, Warren Martin and I are here at 11:30, but that's not the case anymore now that WTCN TV is an NBC affiliate. We are here very early at 5 o'clock in the morning getting up with you. So we would like very much to hear from you. Since we're new to you, you too are new to us. And drop us a note. Tell us what you'd like to see. Tell us what you don't like. Seldom do we have to solicit those comments. They usually pour in. But do let us know what you'd like to see, because we will be here every morning with you. And of course, that whole new NBC affiliation here at WTCN, which just began on Monday, means that we have a number of things that have changed. And most importantly, at least from our point of view, has been the change in our newsroom. We have expanded from about 10 people to something like 50, I think, and we have a brand new anchor team. Heading that anchor team is Jim Dyer, who comes to us from the South. How are you?
From Virginia.
Welcome to the Twin Cities.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
It is. We're glad you're here. And we're glad Dr. Michael Breen is here as well. He is an unusual part of our news team because we certainly have never had a medical doctor as an on-the-street reporter before. But you're doing the beat on all of the things that medically affect our lives, and they are numerous.
Yeah, they are. And I think that there's a large part of that story that hasn't been told and that people are very interested in.
In fact,
So
you
I'm
are a
looking forward to
medical
this.
doctor.
Yes, I am. I've done some specialty training in internal medicine. I have my MD. Diploma hangs on my wall, believe it or not. And they tell me I can practice.
Well, don't practice on any of us, although you had suggested that it was good to have a doctor in the house.
I think it's great if you're not used to a cold climate and you get those sore throats and upper respiratory infection, as it's known.
That's right.
What a fantastic thing to walk into the newsroom in the morning and say, hey, Mike, what can you do about this? Or what can you do about that?
I tell them to take some Sucrets. And,
Yeah,
That's about it.
call me in 3 days.
and I give them a bill. That's one thing. I still have bills.
That's good. Being a transplanted Virginian, you are, Norfolk, Virginia.
Right.
Because I say Norfolk because they haven't yet heard that. We were talking about regions and the way pronunciations are so different. Now, I think in Minnesota, we would say Norfolk. And if I went to Virginia and said that, nobody would know what I was talking about.
Someone would say, oh, you mean Norfolk.
Norfolk. And one of the other things that you said, Wayzata, you had trouble with?
Well, of course, that's one of the first places I saw when I came to the Twin Cities, and just to look at the spelling, and again, taking into consideration that I am from Virginia, we would probably look at that and say, oh, that's Wayzata or Wayzata instead of Wyzetta.
Yes, yes. There's going to be a lot of things like that. Now, we've got towns like Monamedi. Well, Bird Island is easy to say, but a lot of those things that are going to, Minnetonka, you probably don't have any trouble with that.
No, that's right.
Many of our words are Indian words. Being a native Virginian, I would have expected a Southern accent. There is none.
Well, I think that that's probably because I've been in broadcasting for a rather long period of time. And there's a lot of concentration, of course, on pronouncing words the correct way and trying not to regionalize yourself. When you stop and think about it, there really are very few television stations throughout the country. Many markets, but few television stations. So if you become too regionalized, you may not fit in too well someplace else. And in this business, the ladder up usually means some major moves. So consequently, you don't always want to sound like you're from below the Mason-Dixon line.
Those of us who were born and raised here and worked here all of our lives don't understand what it must be to be a part of the transient element of our business, because it is that. And it seems to me it would be terribly frightening to leave the security of one's home where you've been all your life and go to another area and risk as much as you are.
Well, it's comforting in a sense to know that you're not alone. There are about 45 or 46 other people with you, particularly in our transition here in the news department. I think the most difficult thing for someone working in news is the fact that you are leaving behind all of your good contacts and sources that you have established perhaps over a period of many years, realizing that now we've got to start at the bottom again. It's not a matter of picking up the phone and saying, hey, Paul, I need to know such and such. Now it's a matter of picking up the phone and saying, hi, I'm Jim Dyer from WTCN, and I'd like to take you to lunch and get to know you and work up a relationship. And this sort of thing can just take quite a long time before you have built up your credibility, people know that you're trustworthy, and that they can relate to you.
Doctor, where are you from?
New York City. I grew up in Manhattan.
There's another one who obviously studied to not have a New York accent. Did you escape that?
No, I think that people have Brooklyn accents, they have Bronx accents, but they don't have Manhattan accents, because the mix in Manhattan is so varied that there's no one individual accent. You end up sounding like a hybrid, and you can really fit in most anywhere.
Are you chauvinistic about New York City? Everyone who's ever lived in New York City says there's no city like it in the world.
Well, I think so. And whenever anybody comes to me and says, I don't like New York, how can you live with that smog? You know, and to me, the smog is minimal. I like the excitement. I like the sense that if you make it anywhere else, you still haven't made it in New York. It is still the Big Apple, and all its problems are really problems that have preceded other cities. I think you find other cities run into those same problems too.
It's interesting that you would say that, if making it in New York. We can only assume that people in our business, at least we generally assume, are always striving for the next step. And every one of these stops along the way, including the Twin Cities, is building a further foundation toward the next step. Are you one of those folks?
Well, I'll tell you, in the long run, my great career dream is not so much to end up with the NBC network co-anchoring with John Chancellor at night.
You'd like his job.
Nature.
You don't want to co-anchor.
Or if he could just sign his check over every month or so, that would be nice too. I think you've got to be satisfied with specifically what you're doing at that time. I like to think that when I signed on to WTCN, I'm signing on for the long haul, and I could very well end up here for the rest of my career, just wherever I can offer the most and do the best job, and wherever the management feels like they're satisfied with you and that they're getting their money's worth.
Well, we're going to work you so hard, we'll be sure we get our money's worth. It's really exciting. It's wonderful for us to be a part of this whole new thing. In medical terms, it's like a birth.
Well, I don't know, that might be a little dramatic, but...
Well, sure, but I can do that. You see, as a news reporter, you can't, but I can be a little Sarah Bernhardt here early in the morning. It's okay.
It is. I can see the analogy.
Thank you, Doctor, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Good things in the Twin Cities. Be very happy. Enjoy.
Nancy, we're delighted to be here. Feels like home already.
Thank you, Jim. We'll be right back.
Professor Irwin Corey talks about your EQ, your economics quotient.
I taught economics on a high level, but I had to give it up. Classes were held on the 61st floor, and I'm afraid of elevators. However, if you want to meet my great-great-great-uncle, Isadora Corey, he wrote a book on economics 200 years ago. Take you that long to read it. However, if you want to increase your EQ, that's economics quotient. Here's what I suggest. Send for your free booklet, The American Economic System and Your Part in It. It explains in simple everyday language how our American economic system works. Send for your free copy. Write Economics, Pueblo, Colorado, 81009. Did you get that? Economics, Pueblo, Colorado, 81009. I mean, the more we know how the economic system works, the better we can make the economic system work for us. Right, Uncle Isidore? Right.
I'm talking to our new weatherman, Glenn Burns, off the set, because he just brought this next gentleman in to us. One of the things over the years that has excited me as much as anything else that I've been able to witness in my lifetime has been the space program. It seems to me that if we are capable of what we are achieving in space, we can do virtually anything, including reach peace on this earth and save people's lives, all kinds of things. Well, a gentleman who's been intimately involved in that, as a matter of fact, he was part of the Apollo 15 mission, is Al Warden, and he's at the show today. How are you?
Thank you.
Very exciting. And, you know, when I meet someone like you, I do my best to be very cool, as if I meet an astronaut every day of my life, but I tend to fall all over myself.
What is being cool, though?
Well, I'm not sure. Mostly, I guess I know I'm not doing it. Apollo 15 was in 1971?
Right.
And what did Apollo 15 do?
Well, Apollo 15 was an extension of the flights that had been flown before. It was the 4th manned lunar landing mission, and it was different from the other ones from the standpoint that we carried a lunar rover for the first time, a little electric car that was driven around on the surface, and we carried a lot of extra equipment into orbit, too. In fact, we carried so much equipment that we were, I think, the heaviest launch that this country's ever made, and we as a crew still hold the world's record for lifting or for being part of the greatest mass that went into lunar orbit. Now, I don't know what that says about us as a crew, but we certainly did put a lot of mass into lunar orbit.
Were you on the surface of the moon?
No, I stayed in orbit while Dave Scott and Jim Irwin drove the car around on the surface. In fact, that was kind of funny because all three of us were in the Air Force, and it's always been my understanding that people that are in the Air Force were there to fly, not to walk. Dave and Jim did a lot of walking around on the surface of the moon, so I had to remind them, before they came back into lunar orbit, we did our rendezvous and docking, I had to remind them that we were still all in the Air Force, so I played the Air Force song for them over the radio, which didn't go too well with powers that be at the time because it kind of drowned out all the signals that they had to pass back and forth to get off the surface. So
I know that it was part of your life for so long that as you sit here and talk about it, it's very matter of fact. I took a trip to the moon. For those of us who will never know what that is, but who sat in awe as we watched that mission as well as all of the others, can you even begin to describe the feeling?
Well, I'd have to say that feeling about making a flight like that, particularly going to the moon, Earth orbit's one thing, but going to the moon is another thing. Got very confused because the training program is so long that by the time you get there, you say, oh my God, thank heavens we're finally making the flight. That coupled with the fact that you've trained for it so long and you've gone through each detailed maneuver so many times that when you finally get there, you say, well, gee, this is just like training all over again. So that takes kind of the edge off of the feeling that maybe you're someplace that, you're a long ways out by then. I think the training program really dulls the thrill of being that far away. Yeah.
Now, is there any kind of feeling of having been such an important part of that history? Because you are.
I guess left to my own devices, that feeling would go away very quickly. But because I have to live in the world and I have to react to people around me, I'm reminded of that often enough so that it really doesn't go away. I'm thankful of that in a way because having been on a flight gives me access to people that I can talk to about some of the things I feel very strongly about, which otherwise I'd never get to.
One of the things you feel very strongly about is energy. And in fact, we're going to be able to make use of your knowledge on our NewsCenter 11 team, aren't we?
Well, we hope so. Yeah. But I have, since I retired, spent all of my time working in the energy area, developed, in fact, some national energy plans for President Carter, have worked around the country in a consulting capacity with energy programs like state energy programs, not so much in the production end, but in the conservation end, in the consumer end. And that has led me into a number of programs where I'm actually consulting to companies on how they use their energy and what they can do to cut the use of energy in their own facilities. And that's been very exciting. As a matter of fact, I find it a great challenge.
Are you prepared at all to talk about the whole question of nuclear energy? There's such controversy over it, and to those of us who don't understand it, it seems like a very frightening thing.
Nancy, I don't dodge any discussions or arguments about anything that has to do with energy. I think one of the things that's happened in this country is that we've become such a country of special interests, and we've become such a country of, let me say, extremists in a way, that we can't discuss the nuclear issue without having the far-out environmentalists on one hand and the far-out industrialists and energy producers on the other hand. And it's very difficult to arrive in a middle ground on all that. I don't see anything wrong with nuclear energy if we look at it as a kind of short-term solution to large-scale energy production problems in this country until we can get to something that maybe is a better energy source.
Is solar energy a possible better source?
Well, I think solar, in some form or another, we're eventually going to have to get to solar as our unlimited energy source. Now, that may boil down to something as simple as blocking out tree farms all over the country where we just merely cut the trees and throw them in the boiler. That is a form of solar energy. Anything that grows here on the earth, that grows as a result of the sun, such as trees or any biological life, that could be solar energy. The direct conversion of solar energy to electricity is another part of that, and that can be done too. Any of these things are possible, but unfortunately they take a long time to develop, a lot of money into the research.
One of the things that, again, is confusing as a person who understands only very little of it and what we hear in the news, it seems that we're so afraid of the increasing oil costs and the gas shortages and oil coming down from Alaska will be totally depleted within the next, 25, 30 years.
Something like that.
I keep thinking, why on earth aren't we doing something today? Why aren't we talking more about tree farms or solar energy or things? It seems that we always, as Americans, assume that it'll all work out, and then we're amazed when it doesn't, and we've got to do something else.
Well, as Americans, we have a hard time looking beyond the next political cycle, I think. A lot of work is being done in those areas, and it's not the kind of work that makes news, but it's certainly foundation kind of work. That 10 or 15, 20 years from now will make the difference.
What about the space program? We pulled back so on that. Do you think that's a shame?
Well, we haven't really pulled back on it. It's just that the funding that's gone into the program, in a manner of speaking, has gone underground. The money has gone into the development of the shuttle vehicle, which will be flying next year. And because it hasn't flown yet, you don't hear much about it, but the funding levels for the agency are actually about the same as they were 10 years ago.
So we haven't lost our space program.
We just don't hear much about it, that's all. Right, but we will after next year.
It's very nice to have you here. It's very exciting
Thank you.
for me. Thank you for taking the time to
My
come.
pleasure.
Al Warden, nice to see you. We'll be right back. The chef is in the kitchen. Jim Beatty is with us. Stay right where you are.
What would you do if you couldn't see well? Probably have your eyes checked, get a pair of glasses, right? But if you couldn't understand an ordinary conversation, what would you do? Smart thing would be to get a hearing checkup like I did. I got bored asking people to repeat everything or else being left out. For me, hearing aids were the answer. You know, about 14.5 million Americans have a hearing loss, and most of them needlessly because they could be helped. Medically, surgically, or like me, through amplification. Why are so many still suffering? False pride, lack of information, stigma. If you or someone you love doesn't hear well, arrange for a hearing checkup. For information, write Hearing, Box 1840, Washington, D.C. 20013. You should hear what you're missing.
I'm Al Hofstad, and as mayor of Minneapolis, I'm proud to know our city is filled with people willing to help each other when the need arises. But being willing to help isn't enough. You've also got to know how to help. For instance, would you know how to help a friend who suddenly suffers a heart attack, or the neighbor who chokes on food at your neighborhood barbecue? They will need your help within 3 minutes if they are going to survive. You can learn how to sustain life using nothing but your hands and head during their first few critical moments in a single 3-hour class session presented by our Office of Emergency Preparedness to the members of our community. If you aren't familiar with these skills, I urge you to enroll in one of these free sessions so that you too can be ready and able to help. 3 hours of your time now may mean the difference between life and death to a friend or relative. Call 823-5204 and ask about the ABCs of life-saving.
If you're up this early, what you ought to be doing is exercising and getting fit for the day. I know that sounds difficult, but Lana Mosa's always here on What's New, and she'll make it easier for you. Hi, Lana.
Good morning. It's time to shake a leg, huh? All right. Our new motto. All right, now I forecast an early spring. And because of that, I would suggest that it is now very important that you start springing your bodies back into shape after a long winter of hot wine and fireside and munchies and that kind of thing. So it is good to get into this active world of exercise. And of course, if you're expecting a lot of your body this spring and summer, now is the time to place a few demands on it so it can get in better shape for yourself. And let's start with some side leg swings, and we will warm up. Now here's a good warm-up exercise that, of course, will bring some fresh blood and oxygen to all of the body, but great hip and thigh work at the same time. So it's a rather efficient way to start a good program. And we go right to some jumping jacks for variety and to try to keep the body going. Here's yet another good hip and thigh exercise. All right, as we have shed a few layers, we also notice an extra layer here and there also in the body. So let's start with some good mid-sectional exercising. We start with our good exercise stance, which means the legs are open, shoulders pulled back, and the body pulled up. Well, from that position, we go right onto a forward bend, and as we do so, we maintain a flat back. That's not always the easiest, but we'll try a few first. So keep the head up, we bend forward, and we come back up again. All right, now this is a great exercise for the whole middle part of the body, and of course it gets a lot of benefit for hips and thighs. And to contribute to hip and thigh area, we even add a little bit of a twist now and make it a 3-part exercise. All right, initially we bend forward. All right, now twist to your left and keep the back flat, and we bend from this position. All right, now back to the center. And we twist to the right and bend from this position. Before you bend, we twist and then bend. All right, now that's a good exercise. Not the easiest, but of course, once in a while, we really do need a challenge. Let's maintain that position and yet another kind of bend, this time a side bend. And as basic as it is, it's very effective for slenderizing and cinching in that whole middle. All right, to the right first and bend exactly over the hip line. And as we do so, let's hold the bend and push that elbow down toward the knee. Feel a super stretch that goes right into the hip. And we straighten up and to the left. And once we're down there, hold it. Then try to ease that body a bit deeper, and we continue. You see, not all of our exercises have to be done fast. Many of them are almost more effective if we take our time and get the motion right. Now push down, see if the back can relax a bit.
Grandparents, you have to meet Jim Beatty yet, and we have 2 animals from the Humane Societies who need homes.
Hi, I'm Don Peterson from downtown Brothertown with valuable deals and lots of wheels like this model here with winter equipment, with snows, heater, AFM stereo. Here's our competition model with heavy-duty equipment and bumper guards. And here's another model with racing stripes and steel-belted sneakers. Here's another model with tinted glass and air conditioning. So to check on the perfect model in your neighborhood, contact the local Big Brother office.
Except for emergencies, motorists should stay off the road.
Hear that, Joe?
Extremely hazardous.
He said except for emergency.
I can make it. Stop worrying. From the National Weather Service, blizzard conditions with winds gusting up to 40. Don't push your luck in a blizzard. You may lose.
It's early in the morning, and you haven't been here before for our Operation Grandparents. The gentleman who's with us every Tuesday on Operation Grandparents, which is a beautiful program, is someone we're very proud of here at WTCN 11. He is our Public Affairs Director. He also most recently was unanimously voted WTCN TV's sex symbol by his fellow employees.
Stop that, Mouse. What's everybody laughing at? It's possible. I mean, you know, there's still hope in my life.
Stuart,
certainly.
you see, it's something I believe in my heart.
You walk down the street with me, have you? Hundreds of women throwing themselves off curbs.
I know. That's why I brought this up. Stuart A. is a former potentate of the shrine here in Minnesota. I mean, he's really an extraordinary man, and he's part of what's new every Tuesday. Now, you'd vote him a sex symbol, wouldn't you? Especially with his glasses off.
Oh, yeah.
Stuart, tell them about Operation Grandparents, because in spite of all my falderall, it's a very special program.
Indeed it is, and that's a program all about love, isn't it, Ann?
Yes, it is.
We're here for the Minneapolis Asian Opportunity Center, and Operation Grandparents is but one program of Mayo. And it's a program whereby we try to find new friendships, particularly for our seniors, so many of whom are left alone.
Yes.
That's the way life works out, doesn't it? Huh? There's no need to be lonely for any of us, don't you know? And we have found across the last half dozen or dozen years that Operation Grandparents has been in effect that this has developed into a two-way street. We say we'll find you new friends in a younger age, a young family with children or singletons. But we find that these young people are just as lonesome. Right. They need grandparents in there. We need that extended family, even if it's just to come in for a few hours or a day or a week, whatever it may be. So we say to our seniors, for goodness sakes, don't be lonely. Get in touch with us at Mayo, and we'll find some new friends for you. And it's a two-way avenue because the young people are volunteering too. I have with me today Mr. Chuck Wiesen, and Chuck is administrator of Mayo. How long have you been with Mayo, Chuck?
I've been there 8 years.
What's your job as administrator, sir?
My responsibilities are for the entire staff and making sure that all the services go out to the seniors who need them.
How big a staff have you at Mayo?
There's about 162 staff on board, plus volunteers in addition to that.
And if there's an advocate for the seniors, I don't know who we denominate number one, but Minneapolis Age and Opportunity. You have so many services for them. Operation Grandparents is but one program. Tick them off. What
Home-delivered meals, transportation, employment services, homemaking, chore services, legal services, counseling, a clinic with Abbott Northwestern Hospital for medical problems. In the voluntary sector, we've got volunteers, Operation Grandparents, a free blood bank for seniors who can't replace blood. We've got meals in the community where they can get discounts during off-peak hours at various restaurants in the metro area. We've got reassurance phone service through TeleCare Northwestern. We've got 24-hour emergency service.
Goes on and on, doesn't it?
Right.
Yeah. We're here to talk about Operation Grandparents. As I say, that's been going for years and years and years. We're so proud of the success. And these friendships we've put together, these matchings, we do it slowly, but they last for years and years. So many people ask us about the activities. I must ask you this question, about how many are in waiting, so to speak, right now for a matching? They're registered, they're waiting to meet somebody new. About how many would you say?
At this point, I would say about 18 to 20 people are waiting to be matched.
Do you know offhand, do we need more seniors or more younger families now?
It's a kind of a combination of both. Probably seniors more so at this point. It depends on areas. We try and keep them geographically together, particularly if transportation might be a difficulty for one part of the group.
So it'd be easier for them to share time, meeting each other, getting in each other's homes, that sort of thing. One of the questions we are often asked, what type of activities do these two families engage in? Here's someone who may be housebound, maybe is not housebound, a younger person who is more mobile. What type of activities do they? And you have many examples with you today. Give us one or two.
Okay. An example is an older woman who's been matched about 6 months with a family of 4. They do many things together, but wanted to single out the 10-year-old girl likes to do cooking. The 13-year-old girl loves to do sewing. And the Operation Grandmother loves to teach just exactly those things. So she spends time either individually with each of them or together with both of them, teaching them. And she admits she gets a little embarrassed at times with the amount of bragging they do about their grandmother. And occasionally they will bring their friends to her house. And a year ago, she had very little, if any, company coming. Now she feels she's got a busy house full of active young teenagers running in and out of the house. She's involved in life, and she's got plenty of family attention from that family of 4.
Well, now that bears out just what we were saying. Here's an older person who's lonesome. Now she has all this activity going on. She has the talent of cooking, for example, that she is teaching someone. She is giving. These youngsters are bringing her activity, but they are learning something at the same time. And I know you said their grandmother. It's become a relationship, a family relationship, isn't it?
Exactly. They do things as a family.
Chuck Wiesen, would you believe we're already running out of time? I want to thank you for coming to our program. It means so much to us that executives like you will take of your time during the day to come in and tape programs like this. We're pleased to be associated with Minneapolis Age and Opportunity. This man's name is Chuck Wiesen. He's the administrator at Minneapolis Age and Opportunity. Now, if you have any questions about our program, we want you to call us at 874-5525, or you may even write mail and ask the question. If you want a matching, this is the call, 874-5525. Thank you, Chuck Wiesen, very, very much. Always a delight on this program, of course, is to meet some of our animal friends, and Nancy has 2 great pets with her today.
I do, Stuart. This gentleman wants to sit behind me. This is Archie. Archie is a purebred German Shorthair. He's at the Ramsey County St. Paul Humane Society. He's too skinny. Archie needs somebody who will love him a lot and feed him. Come here, Archie. He's 3 years old. Come here, boy. He's housebroken. He's good with children. He's a good pointer. Apparently, he's been a hunter. And as a purebred German Shorthair, with a lot of energy, he wants to go over to the fellow from the Humane Society who brought him over. Here, bring him in for me so that they get to see another bit of him again. But we do tell you every week here on What's New about animals from the Humane Societies, because there are so many, particularly adults, that need homes and need to be adopted. Archie is one of them. Isn't he a beautiful German Shorthair? And he needs a home. He's good with kids. And by the way, being a Shorthair, he's an indoor dog. You should remember that. You want to be sure you're prepared to have him live indoors with you. We don't forget that there are cats who need homes, too. And Sally Boyce is often with us. She's with the auxiliary of the Hennepin County Humane Society. And Sally, this is what kind of cat?
It's a domestic Shorthair.
And she's beautiful. Her name is Misty. She's 8 months old, and for the longest time while waiting to do the show, she's been sitting comfortably on your lap. She seems like a nice lap cat.
Oh, she is.
There are so many cats at both of the humane societies as well, and we ask you to think of the humane societies when you're thinking of an animal. They have a lot of puppies and kittens, but they also have so many adults who need homes. Misty at the Hennepin County Humane Society, and beautiful Archie, the German Shorthair, at the St. Paul Humane Society. Thank you, Archie. We'll be back. Hank Meadows is in the kitchen. Jim Beattie is still to come along.
Well, reading's really fun and it's interesting. It gives you information on other people. If you start reading a book, you might start liking it and you might be able to read some more books to get more facts. It's really nice reading. It's like another land that you can just go into when you pick up a book and start reading.
You know, there have been some important changes in the tax laws. Could very well affect the return you're filing, could lower the amount of tax that you pay. For example, if you've installed insulation or improvements such as storm doors or windows, or if you've had a capital gain from the sale of stocks or bonds, or if you're age 55 or older and have sold your home, the new tax law changes could affect you. Check the 1040 tax instructions. You'll find the details there.
My mind is a pearl. I can learn anything in the world. So if you watch TV 3 hours a night and you are entertained rather than studying, becoming educated, you must live with the consequences of that decision. Nobody will save us from us, for us, but us.
From the rising of the sun till the time that it goes down, the name of the Lord shall be praised.
Start your day with PTL at 6 a.m. on this channel.
Oh, the name of the Lord shall be praised. Yes, the name of the Lord shall be
We have had, as a regular on What's New, when we were on at 11:30 for some time now, Jim Beattie. He's been a regular with us because we consider him very special. Jim's background is most interesting, and though on our program we usually talk about chemical dependency, that being drug addiction or alcoholism, with Jim, particularly as it applies to young people. Today we're going to talk a bit about Jim. Because you are a new audience, you probably haven't met him before here on What's New. Jimmy, how are you?
Fine, thank you, very good.
Most recently, the people perhaps know that you've been in the news because you just fought Scott Ledoux,
Yes.
on February 20th. You are indeed a heavyweight boxer as well as a number of other things.
Yes, right. Part of my rap is that I'm a heavyweight boxer.
You were born and raised in St. Paul.
That's my home.
Yeah, and your boxing career actually began when you were a teenager.
Oh, yeah, early teenager. I was just 13 when I started boxing as an amateur. I was a tall, skinny, very passive kid, and was the object of a lot of the bullies. And started boxing amateur, became a pretty adept Golden Glove fighter, and continued all through high school. I boxed, and then finally I went to the National Golden Gloves 3 years in a row, and finally won the AAU championship in '62, and then I turned pro. At 19 years old, I started boxing professional heavyweights. It was a little bit premature, a little early.
Was it?
And, right. Then I fought here twice in Minnesota, and then went to New York City. Went out there with the boys with the $100 bills and fast track, and
and that was the start of a lot of trouble for you. I mean, it was an interesting career, but there was also an awful lot of difficulty involved. That's where you became addicted to drugs.
I started using them. I learned what they're all about. And as a professional athlete, I was a performer in Madison Square Garden regularly, and I was supposed to be an up-and-coming, very good fighter with a lot of potential, and associated with some very fast people. And those fast people introduced me to a fast track, fast lifestyle.
Some of those fast people were part of the mob, mafia, whatever we call them.
The outfit.
They say that doesn't exist, but you're here to tell us it does.
There's organized crime.
And ultimately, they ended up owning you. You didn't know that at the time, but they did own you, didn't they?
It took me 2 years to find it out. And finally one day they said, "Kid, let us tell you some of the facts of life, just some, but pay attention." And they told me. So my next year and a half was spent in trying to get away from that, extricate myself from organized crime and bad relationships. And I was also one of my own worst enemies, was Jim Beatty. I didn't really know where to turn or which way to go. So I left, in '66, I finally left New York after 4 years there, came back to Minnesota, and after 8 months picked up the rest of my career, which had been pretty well shattered in New York City. I had a bad experience in Madison Square Garden in December of '65.
Very bad. You were hideously beaten.
Beaten real bad. I was set up. Fighters drink water between rounds. My bottle did not contain water. It contained medication.
That you didn't know about.
I had no idea. Anyway, the rest is history. I came back from New York to Minnesota and spent the next 8 months trying to get my license back to fight in New York.
Mm-hmm.
I spent 54 days in New York District Court, 11 days in Kentucky, which was the home of the WBA at that time, World Boxing Association. I spent 30 days in federal court here in Minneapolis. And finally, I won all the cases. I got my license back and proved that I was vindicated, but my career was a little bit shaky at that time. But I started boxing and boxed up until '69. And then I quit boxing in '69 and went into the business world. I was a businessman. And I left boxing with the identity of Big Jim Beatty, big money, because I was supposed to make big money. Didn't make it in boxing. So I entered the business world, hoping to make that same kind of an identity, impact, big money, without really knowing much about myself, who I was. I was trying to do things for all the wrong reasons, because my avenue was money, success. That was going to make everything right in the world, and me right with the world was money. But that's folly. It just doesn't work that way. So I also had a bad experience in the business world. I was involved in publicly held companies. And my last acquisition was a company, a paramedical manufacturing supply company in Southern California. And a wholly owned subsidiary was 4 drugstores. So here was a person who in the past had used a lot of drugs. Then money got tight, partner was killed in a bad accident, but as bad an accident as you can get. He was dead. Then we had the drugstores, and money was tight, the partner was dead. And I went back to something I knew could make the pressure a little better. I went to I was my own best customer in my drugstores, and I just wound up with too much pressure and not knowing how to handle it, and not knowing anything about my own intrinsic strengths or my own worth or my own values. And trying to get some value off of other external successes. So
And that turned to drug addiction, became very serious. And then finally you put yourself into Eden House, which was a drug treatment center, hardcore drug treatment center that your brother Chuck had begun.
Yes, he started that in '71. I knew a lot about my own drug habit. I had a habit I couldn't handle. Drugs had become such a terrible thing in my life that I didn't ever want to have to go through this horrible experience of again to be addicted to anything. So I went into a program that was the area's premier drug rehab center, which was Eden House. I spent 10 months in Eden House, and not only did I learn how to get my needs met without having to use chemicals, but I learned who I really was. I learned about many parts of myself that I had just thrown away. I reclaimed my potential as a person.
Much of Jim's potential is now being used at Nexus, which is a therapeutic community that Jim has put together for felons who are on the doorstep of the penitentiary, and rather than going to the penitentiary, the judge can direct them into Nexus, where they remain for a year, year and a half, until they have worked through all of that negative behavior and hopefully will become productive people in our society.
Right, we deal with character disorder people that have had a history of failures. They come to Nexus and straighten that whole pattern out, go back into society, not only staying out of this criminal justice system, but success, fulfilled, reclaim their own potential, in a sense. So it works very well. It's the area's biggest treatment center like that.
And extremely successful, mostly because of Jim Beattie. Jimmy's here with us regularly. You're new to us. If there is anything at all you want Jim to direct himself to concerning drug addiction, alcoholism, various problems that people are experiencing with their young people, for goodness sakes, drop us a note, and Jim will be happy to direct himself to them. By now you've met him only briefly, but you know as well as we do how special he is. It's good to still have you with us, my friend.
Thank you very much, Nancy. It's always my pleasure.
Go home and take a nap. It's very early in the morning. We'll be back. The chef is in the kitchen.
Anything for the...
I like reading because it's fun.
It's informational and you get a lot of facts from it.
I'm not too good in athletics, and the best way I can pass my time is by reading.
Like if you ever got in some kind of accident, you could just remember a book and maybe it would work out that way.
Every time you read, you always learn.
Hello, this is Jane Pauley. We think that today is an excellent way to start your day every Monday through Friday morning at 7 on the new NBC 11. Tom and I will be here, along with Gene Shalit, Floyd Calba with the news, Bob Ryan with the National Weather Outlook, plus the rest of the Today team. Every weekday morning at 7, join us on Today on the new NBC 11.
Watch the Today Show every weekday morning at 7 on the new NBC 11.
Hi, I'm Corky from Operation Cork. Let's look in on this party. Mary, what do you have?
I'll have a martini.
Paul, how about you? Yeah, I'll have a beer. Sue?
What kind of soft drinks do you have?
If you're the host, remember those who don't drink alcoholic beverages. If drinking is causing pain in your family, send for Alcohol, a Family Affair at P.O. Box 9550, San Diego, California, 92109. Remember, Corky cares.
Back again today. He'll be here every morning. This is our chef, Hank Meadows. What are we going to have for breakfast?
Well, this is something that you can have for lunch, brunch, breakfast, anytime. Quiche Lorraine. And there's many ways to make it.
I'm going to go and take notes.
Are you
all right?
Nancy,
be brilliant.
Please take some notes on this, because this is very good. And it doesn't cost a lot of money. It can be made in very, very many ways. But let me show you one easy way. And you can dice ham, you can dice any type of meat. And I have a little bacon here, which I just dice up. And when I say a little bacon, it's really 2 slices cut in half, so to make it 4. But it's cut a little thick, which I like to saute it off. And we just take and cut this completely in little strips. And then I take it and put it into my saute pan. And with this, I'm going to wipe off my knife, and I have an onion. And I haven't chopped the onion, but I'm going to show you how to do this. We take the onion, and I just move all my things out of the way here so you can see this, because this is absolutely the right way to chop an onion. Now that we cut it in half, and the reason to cut it in half is so it won't slide. You see, I just take my knife and I go through there, and I don't go all the way through. I've just gone down this far, and the reason I do that, it holds it together. And we just take quickly, and now that I have that, you see it just dices right up. See how that all falls apart? Then you can make that as fine, as thick as you want. Now you can also slice this, you know. But we have our onion here, and I'm not going to go through the whole thing because you get the idea. And I just wanted to give you the idea, and I'll put that in there with my bacon. Just take your knife, pick it up, put it with your bacon, let it saute. Now this takes about 5 minutes to saute up, which I have it already done to save a little time for you. And I also added just a little piece of butter, just about that much, and I let that in there and cook with the bacon. Once I have that all done, I take a pie shell. Now this is a 9-inch deep pie shell. And I take this and I place all the onion and all the bacon in there in my pan. Just scrape it all out, put it right in the bottom of the pan. And with that, I'm going to add about a cup of cheese. And I've got cheddar cheese, and I love cheddar cheese. You can put Swiss in there, you can put mozzarella, you can put many types of cheese. Now that's up to you. Now the next step that I have, I'm going to set that here. I'm going to take 3 eggs, zap them right into my bowl. And with those 3 eggs, I'm going to add a good teaspoonful of my very favorite seasoning. And the reason it's my very favorite, because it's natural and it's mine, because I dreamt that up, and I just whip this together. Now, with that, I'm going to add a cup and a half of half and half. Or if you don't have the half and half, you can use milk. I did have half and half. I do have the milk, whatever you want to do, but it's... Now, we can also take and put a little nutmeg on this, and it makes it very good. But we just take this and pour this right on top. Now, that fills up that pie shell, and you put it in there. Now, for something really super different, we can put any type of vegetables in there. You can put, Jim Beatty was telling me that his mother makes it with asparagus, but you can put asparagus, cream, or spinach in there, many things. And then we just place this in the oven. And I've set the oven to 375, and I'm not going to put this in there because it takes me a little while to walk around here with that thing. I usually put it on the tray. But let me show you. I have a couple kinds made here, and I'm going to take them out. Now, doesn't that really look beautiful? Beautiful, beautiful. Now, individuals. Same thing. Now, doesn't that really look good? Now, that makes a very individual serving, and you can make all different types and whatever, and you just take them right out of the... Now, I'm going to take... What happened? Did I do something funny? I hope so. Now, we're going to just take this right out. Now, look. Don't take one of your good knives to cut in the pan because it dulls the good knife. But we just take, let's take a look. Doesn't that really, Nancy, what do you think? Doesn't that really look beautiful?
It looks terrific, and I tell you, I'm notoriously a horrid cook. Our audience may not know that yet, but one of the few things I can make that is always successful is quiche. And when we have guests, we often have quiche and a big salad and perhaps another vegetable, and they're just as happy as they can be.
Or just a little dessert. Some I have some fresh pears that you can cut up, and it makes a very delicious meal. Now, this can be for breakfast, can be for lunch, for a brunch, and if you got some people coming over, you want some fast hors d'oeuvres, if you got a pie shell, Zappo, you can put any type of thing in there.
The difference between the good cook and the bad one is that you make the pie shell, I buy it.
Well, they should do that at home, because it saves, okay, there's a lot of gals now at home that watch this hour probably up making pie shells and bread. Hey, that's the thing to do, because I love you, Nancy loves you. Hey, write me a letter, tell me that you're watching, and I'll do anything that you want because I love you. It's time to go. Hey, bye. God love every one of you.
Victims have rights, too. Minnesota Crime Victim Crisis Centers offer 24-hour assistance to anyone who's been the victim of a crime. Services such as temporary home repairs, transportation, help in getting clothing, food, and shelter, help in applying for state aid for medical expenses or lost wages, help with insurance claims, reporting stolen IDs, credit cards, checks. This service is free to crime victims. All Crisis Center personnel have picture ID cards. Insist on that identification. Make a note of the Crime Victim Crisis Center telephone number nearest you.
You gained something. You gained a beautiful new experience. You gained a new polish, a panache. You learned to live on a somewhat higher level. You now have a new awareness of style, of grace, of elegance. I salute the new Oscar.
Thank you, Felix.
Saturdays at noon on Channel 11.
Dr. Morse.
Gene, Ned, I've got to talk to you about Anne's drinking. I've tried everything to get her to stop. I'm at the end of my rope. I can't concentrate at work. I can't sleep. I can't eat. I've got to get help or it'll destroy me.
Ned, do you know about Al-Anon?
Al-Anon?
If someone you love has a drinking problem, can you see what it's doing to you? Contact Al-Anon listed in your phone book or Al-Anon Family Group Headquarters.
NBC 11, keeping you company all night long. Sunday through Thursday nights at 3:30 in the wee hours of the morning. Chuck Barris is up with his unconventional Gong Show. This unusual type of talent competition will certainly keep you wide awake and ready to stay up with the FBI from 4 to 5 a.m. Ephraim Zimbalist Jr. stars as Inspector Lou Erskine, who gets his man every time. From Sunday to Thursday, NBC 11, keeping you company all night long.
Thank you for joining us this morning on What's New. Once again, my name is Nancy Nelson, and next Monday, the other half of What's New will be here with me every day, Warren Martin. Right now, he's in Scandinavia. We want to hear from you. If there's anything special you want to see on the show, and we know that many of you viewing us now are in rural areas, we do plan for the upcoming dates some things on agriculture. We will be talking specifically about some of your concerns and interests as our program goes on. And we'll be back at 5 o'clock tomorrow morning. Among other things, we'll be talking with our new sports director, Bob Kurtz, here on WTCN TV. We're going to talk with Carol Lawson. She's the illustrator of the UN Year of the Child dolls. Beautiful, beautiful things. And we're going to talk with an author about weather language. And this is the time of year in Minnesota when the weather has finally gotten to us. We'd like for it to be gone. Well, he says that there's a lot that the weather really does affect in the terms of the way people walk and talk and move. All of that at 5 o'clock on What's New. Please join me. My name is Nancy Nelson, and let us hear from you. We want to know you're out there. Have a very good day.
It's Hello Larry every Friday night at 7:30 on the new NBC 11. We've got it now.
We've got it now.
We've got it now on the new NBC 11 with the exciting adventures of Super Train, Wednesday nights at 7. Yes, there is a Mrs. Columbo, and she's a super sleuth if there ever was one. Watch her Thursday nights at 9. And on Friday nights at 7, Gary Coleman and Conrad Bain star as an unusual father and son duo. The comedy series Different Strokes, all on NBC 11. We've got it now.
The PTL Television Network presents Jim Baker, hosting the world's most unusual talk variety show. With outreach and ministries around the world, via television, radio, and satellite. Originating today in the beautiful Heritage Village Studios in Charlotte, North Carolina, this is the PTL Club. Our special guests today include Reggie Vincent, famous rock music composer known as Reggie Vincent. He has 7 gold records to his credit, having written music and worked with Alice Cooper, Kiss, Tiny Tim, Elton John, and many other famous rock stars. And then he lost it all and found everything in a hotel room in Vegas. Jesus, to a Billy Graham television crusade. Also, Buddy Makepeace, former alcoholic and gambler who met Jesus at a meeting of the FGB MF5. And David Villa, publisher of Spanish evangelical literature, including Jim Baker's Move That Mountain and some 400 other titles. Doug Weed, author, lecturer, and teacher, is conducting our PTL seminars this week on the subject of the importance of having a vision. Today's ministry and music features Dino and Debbie Kartsanakis, world-renowned gospel pianist and singer, making Jesus alive through their music. This is also the day for the weekly performance of the PTL Voices, made up of folks from many areas of the ministry staff, and Tammy Faye will be singing. Plus, the PTL Orchestra and Singers under the direction of Earl Spur. I'm your announcer and co-host, Henry Harrison. And now, here's your host, PTL President, Jim Baker!
Thank you. Thank you very much. Welcome. So nice to have you here with us today.
And we do have a wonderful lineup of guests that I know you're going to enjoy every one of them.
Amen.
And we're going to start things off with a good song. And Dino and Debbie are here with us again. And we're just always happy to have them here. They're the greatest. So please welcome Dino and Debbie Karsanakis.